For the third year and counting, Richard Skipper has been celebrating the artists you love. Richard Skipper is all about celebrating life, art, and his guest body of work. Please join us while he showcases these diverse and talented individuals. Here's Richard Skipper.
Happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. Who or what are you celebrating tonight? For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. My show is all about celebrating life, celebrating art, celebrating whatever there is to celebrate. And I believe in celebrating each and every day. Today is National Gratitude Day, and I'm grateful about tonight's guest. He was scheduled to be here last night. We had a couple of glitches, and it didn't happen, but he is back tonight, and we are going to make this happen. David, I'm thrilled that you're here tonight. And I always begin by asking my guest, who or what are you celebrating today?
Wow, I love that. Well, you know, today I'm going to celebrate the Richard Skipper Celebrates show. Because, you know, you deserve to be celebrated for celebrating so many other people. So thank you very much for all the years that you've been doing that and blessing us.
Well, God bless you for saying that. Well, let's start by celebrating Roger Neal, who brought us together tonight. And I also want to celebrate our sponsors, because without them, we couldn't be here. And we're going to go back and we're going to celebrate so many things. Your parents, your upbringing, your career. You've worked with so many incredible people, along the years. But David, they've had the pleasure of working with you.
Thank you.
You grew, so many people have heard the expression, I'm going to get out of Dodge, but you actually got out of Dodge. You grew up was it Dodge City, Kansas?
Yeah, I grew up right outside of Dodge City, and spent, there's not many people from Meade, Kansas. Meade, this is a shout out to the city that I'm actually from. And I don't get to say their name very often, but you know what? To the folks of Meade, little town of 2,000 right outside of Dodge City.
I grew up in a small town in South Carolina, Conway, South Carolina. I grew up, my grandfather was very involved in the Methodist Church. And I know that your father was a Mennonite pastor. And I don't know a lot about that sect of Christianity. Can you tell us a little bit about the Mennonite sect and, what it was like growing up in that environment as a little boy, and how you were exposed, first of all, to the arts and how you chose a career or how that desire to go into this business began for you?
Yeah, first of all, I'm sorry about the dings. I don't know if you're hearing dings.
I am.
Okay, I apologize. This whole Zoom thing, I would love to be more technical, and you think that with all the movies that I've made, that I would be like a technical genius, turning off messages and all of that stuff. And I really have, I don't know. This is a new computer, so
Well, that means that somebody out there wants to get you. So hopefully they're watching.
Exactly. Hopefully they're watching. They're sending in questions right now.
Yes.
I had this dream that was inside of me at an early age to go in the entertainment industry. I grew up, my father was a Mennonite pastor. I saw one movie in the theater the first 18 years of my life. And it didn't make any sense that this guy would go into make movies.
No, wait a minute. What was the movie?
Oh, well, we can't talk about that right now. The movie was my friend's. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
No, don't worry about it. We're, I'm going to ignore those dings, and maybe it's your father sending us messages. Is your father still with us?
My father is not with us, so it could be my father. The movie that I saw was a little movie of some friends I was with over at friend's house. Their parents took me to a movie, and when Olivia Newton-John popped up on the screen in her beautiful black tights and wonderful dancing. I thought for sure I'm going to hell, and and I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. It was called Grease.
One of my very best friends was in that movie.
Oh, okay.
Jody Goodman. Did you ever work or know Jody?
I don't think I did. My
She was
loss.
one of the older character actresses that was in the film, but she was the one who was always hitting the xylophone in the school, for those who don't know, but she was in that film. So I've got everything in context now. I get it.
Good. Yeah, the joke about the Mennonites is the Mennonites make the Mormons look like a pack of Hell's Angels. So we grew up very, very conservative, and it didn't make a lot of sense that I would go to Hollywood. So I went to Chicago for a year, where my entire family had gone, graduated, and met their significant others. And then after a year, I decided to leave and just make the jump. And so I moved to LA when I was 19 and jumped right into the entertainment industry.
Well, I'm going to get there in a few moments. Do you have brothers and sisters?
I do. I have an older brother and an older sister.
Now, did they have any desire at all to go into this business at all?
No, not at all. They're musicians. We were a musician household. So I grew up doing that. That was the closest I got to any art form.
Well, it's interesting when you grow up in a household, and I mean, I'm the oldest of four. You grow up in a household, and even though you grow up in the same household, it's almost as if, I mean, in my situation, as if we grew up in four different households. Is that the situation with you, or are you very similar?
Yeah, it is kind of the situation with me. I'm not at all similar to my siblings. I love them dearly, but we're on different pages. That's for sure.
Now, did you have the opportunity growing up where you were to have the opportunity to perform at all? Or was it just the desire that you had?
I had a little bit of I think right around 7th grade, there was a musical teacher that did some kind of a musical theater piece, Sound of Music.
Okay.
And so I think I was in 7th grade or something like that. And they took me to the high school musical. I think I was 7th grade, and they pulled me up to be in this musical. And from there on out, I enjoyed it and I loved it, and I couldn't get rid of it. And the idea of being an entertainer or an actor, didn't even exist though in my world. So I never had really desire to, or like you could actually grow up and be an actor. My dad had come from a very traditional standpoint, to where he had said, well, you don't sing, and you don't dance, because we're Mennonites. So you're not going to be able to go into the entertainment industry. I think I had that conversation one time in high school. But I could never get that thing out of my brain. I could never get that desire of performing. Now I'm the youngest, so the youngest child always gets the performance with the family, and they laugh and they enjoy that process. But yeah, no, I mean, it's I think, and then we didn't even have a drama program of any sort in. I'm going to shut this door just because we got the weed guy out there now.
Oh my God. Same here. So you mentioned you went to Chicago. What took you to Chicago?
Well, I went to Moody Bible Institute there, and that's where my father had met my mother, and both graduated. My brother had graduated, my sister had graduated, and both met their significant others. So it just was kind of, it was an easy step in the way that my dad had always wanted me to go to 1 year of Bible school for all of his kids. So we were just automatically going to have to go there. And it made it a little more simple, because sometimes when you get out of high school, you don't exactly know, what you're going to do or where you're going. And so I always knew from growing up that I had to go to Chicago for at least a year of Bible school right afterwards. No ifs, ands, buts about it. You were on a train to Chicago, and whether you liked it or not.
And did you honor that 1 year? Did you complete the 1 year?
I did. I completed the 1 year. I was in, I was in the band. I did my violin. I was a violinist, so I did that as well. And then I kind of poked around Chicago for a little bit to see what is this acting thing, like how does this even work? I think I was in like that. Oh gosh, I don't even remember. It was a Dana. Come on. What happened here? Just dropped me? Are you still there?
Everyone's after you tonight.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't catch a break here. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I'm like the worst guest. I was late yesterday. I'm going to see if I can turn these messages off. I feel like there's some way to do this. I don't know if it's.
Well, it makes it more interesting. So I just go along with the flow.
I really apologize. I don't know.
No, I'm fine. I'm not complaining. I'm glad you're here. This is a great story, and I've got a lot of questions. So,
I don't know. Anyway, that's what. And then, but after I was there for that year, I realized, oh wow, I don't know how. I really want to go to Los Angeles, which is where I wanted to go the whole time anyway. And so I called my dad and I said, I called my parents. I said, parents, I'm going to leave Bible school and I want to go to Hollywood to be an actor. And there was.
Did you know anyone in Hollywood?
No.
Just
no.
I knew no one when I came to New York. So when you got there, first of all, how did that move happen for you? Where did you go? What was your first day like in a place that you'd never been to? Had you ever been to Hollywood?
My sister had married a guy from San Diego. So they lived in San Diego. So after I finished that year of Bible school, I actually did an internship on 2 actually Christian faith-based films that were shooting in the summer. So this was like, hardly anything was ever shooting, but somehow I had stumbled in on a guy outside of Chicago and was able to get to, to work on his crew. So that's kind of was my entrance into the whole film industry, even though I think I had one line in 1 out of the 2 movies all summer long that I worked on. I moved to San Diego then first. And so I went to school there. It was kind of like, well, maybe I can go and take an acting class here. So I was in San Diego for 6 months before I moved to LA.
Well, you and I both know that in this business, you can have the greatest talent in the world. Obviously, you've got the talent. But it's all a matter of knowing the right people, being at the right place at the right time. How do you begin to, once you make the move to Hollywood, to get to know the right people? Because you had a very good early break in your career, which we're going to get to in a few moments. But getting to that point, did you get an agent, a manager? How did you start getting those people on your team early on?
I ended up going to. I mean, I didn't have a team. First of all, I had moved to, after 6 months in San Diego, I moved to Los Angeles, and I was here for. I got a job doing working at the airport, running baggage claim.
I thought you looked familiar.
Yes, totally. I was the guy on your bags.
That's right.
Like Jim Carrey and whatever, Ace Ventura, I think is the thing. And I just was like, I got involved with just trying to figure out, going, okay, well, how in the world do you do this? So I jumped in extra. I was like, okay, well, let's be an extra on something. Let's figure this thing out. I was like an extra in Doors movie. Some random movies at the time. I had 48 Hours with Eddie Murphy, another 48 Hours with Eddie Murphy. And, it was an interesting, total enlightenment for me, for, a kid from Kansas who literally is like, okay, let's try, wow. And then I found myself surrounded, for whatever reason, I had a knack to be surrounded by movie stars. Like you meet them pretty quickly. Like I remember doing, I wasn't even here for more than 3 weeks, and I did Earth Day, and somehow I was the security guard for Chevy Chase, Steve Martin, just these random superstars, you know, down at Santa Monica Pier. Um, and I, you know, so I have pictures with all these people, but I think that's kind of the fun thing. I think when you're new to Los Angeles is that you enter into, uh, it's just a whole different world than anything you could have imagined.
And as things were starting to unfold for you, was there anything that ever discouraged you, or was that dream bigger than any discouragement that came your way?
No, it was at that point. I mean, you know, I did not have. I think I was just so wide-eyed and at 19 years old,
Mhm.
like this was amazing. You know, it just was like it was like a big candy shop coming from, you know, like a wheat farm in Kansas to Chicago. You know, being in Bible school and like all the studies and you know and their Moody is still a very conservative school to ending up on the Doors set. You know, with you know Val Kilmer and I forget what's her
Yes.
name. But you know, going to the Wiltern Theater and half the people are just smoking weed there. I mean, the whole theater, you know, when they were recreating the Doors. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
Oh yeah, of course.
It was exceptional. Val Kilmer did such an amazing job. So there was nothing other than, and I knew there was more. I needed to figure out, okay, how in the world can I get out of this extra thing, and how do I actually be an actor, right? But you start asking all these fellow actors on sets, even though you've been here 1 month, 2 months, how in the world do you do this? So in the process of this, I ended up becoming an extra on a new show called Evening Shade with Burt Reynolds. And, you know, this was I went on this extras call. It's you know, and ended up in front of Burt Reynolds, and he met all you know these guys, and he chose me. He chose four of us to be football players on his show that would surround his son on the show. And in the first episode, I basically inserted a line uh, where I felt like there was a dead spot. You know, so here I am on a show with Burt Reynolds, and then I inserted a line, and he kept it. And so we shot. I think I went on that show like on a Wednesday, and then Friday we ended up shooting. And then he brought me back the next week and created a character for me. And then he kept doing that. And so I ended up on that show for almost 3.5 years.
Exactly. Well, that was your first big break, but I want to go back for a moment. Leading up to that, you're asking all the right questions, but did you have any formal training before? Were you studying with anyone?
No, no. I mean, well, I had started studying with, you know, the moment I hit, okay, when I was in San Diego for 6 months, I took a theater class. So I did, so that was my first entrance of like, how in the world does one act? Um, and then when I moved up here 6 months later on a whim, I ended up at oh, I forget the guy's name, but he did a sitcom class, and it was on the Fox lot. And so every Monday nights I would go there and take his sitcom class. So I was immediately in class. The moment I landed in Los Angeles, I was in class, trying to figure out how in the world does one do this acting thing, and what is the rules for this? Like, you know, so there's got to be rules to acting. I mean, you can't just, you know, but I didn't know any training because Moody Bible Institute didn't have a theater department. You know, they had a mime troupe. So, you know, that was the most I've done, you know.
I want to talk a little bit about Burt Reynolds, who I share a birthday with. I mean, from everybody that I know who worked with him, and I am going to assume that the energy on that set was probably a relaxed set, because you took a huge gamble, a huge set when you inserted a line, because on some sets that could get you axed completely, and I know from being on many sets that that could just get you right out the door. What gave you the confidence at that moment to be able to insert a line?
I think sincere and utter naivety. And, you know, you're a kid, you're 19 years old, you're not really thinking about I didn't have any fear when I was young. You know, when you think about going from a wheat farm in Kansas to Chicago, I mean, granted, we were protected in a way because you're in school and you're in the dormitory. But at the same token, in Chicago, I have so many memories of being, you know, they took these Bible students and they put them in the hottest places in Chicago, places like Ditka's or Harry Carey's or American's Bar to park cars. The valet company loved Bible students because they knew they wouldn't steal stuff out of the car, primarily. That was a joke, but it was, in reality, it was kind of true. And so we were the number one people, these kids parking, you know, that this was in the era of Michael Jordan. I was parking Michael Jordan's car and Scottie Pippen's car at 18 years old, you know. It was Walter Payton, the refrigerator, like when the Bears were the hottest in the end of the 80s, you know. And so I think, you know, running through at 4 a.m., I had all these, like, I always feel like God really protected me in a lot of ways, because you know, Cabrini Green was one of the roughest neighborhoods in Chicago, and it would be 4 a.m. freezing outside, and I would be running through Cabrini with my wad of money that I had made that night, you know, trying to just get through and not necessarily get hit, you know, or robbed or anything. And so when I landed in LA, I didn't have a lot of fear, is my point. And when I got on that show, I knew Burt Reynolds. That was the only person I knew. I didn't know Michael Jeter. I didn't know Mary Lou Henner. I didn't know, you know, Hal Holbrook, Ozzie Davis, Ruby Dee, Elizabeth Ashley, Charles Durning. I didn't know
What
any.
what a cast! What a cast! And
And
Mary, Mary
know,
Lou has been on this show a couple of times, so
everybody.
just love her.
Yeah. I mean, it was amazing. You know, Billy Bob Thornton, John Ritter, you know, Kenny Rogers, like the Terry Bradshaw, like the amount of guest stars on the show. Dom DeLuise, every single week was extraordinary. And here's this kid, you know, I'm just a guy that saw a dead spot. Nobody was saying anything, you know, somebody's waiting for their line. And so I just popped up, hey, coach, I got a B, you know, and Bert looked at me and he's like, good job, Philpott. And then Michael Jeter was talking to me. And then all of a sudden my character was born. So I think, you know, I think as we get older, the part of the issue is that we start to grow a conscience. We start to become fear-based. What do people think of me? How am I supposed to behave? You know, all of that stuff, as opposed to just going with the flow, being yourself, and embracing the uncomfortableness of it all.
Amen. I totally agree with that. So here you are on this amazing set with these amazing actors, all who have had this amazing history, not only in film and television, but also on stage. What are some of the lessons that you learned from that training ground early on in your business that you've carried with you in terms of discipline, in terms of dedication to your craft, in terms of everything that you have made you the actor that you are, as a producer, as a screenwriter, all the elements of who you are today, from that first big break that you got in the business?
The biggest thing that I walked away from Evening Shade was, I remember going on there early on and looking at Burt Reynolds with all of these people that he knew sitting around these table reads. The table reads would have like 30 people there, you know, and most of the time he had a relationship with most of these different people in different ways. And a lot of them, you know, from the superstars that were on there, you know, the joke is you were on Evening Shade if you had either won an Oscar, an Emmy, or a Tony, and then you could come on, you know, and then you would have Burt Reynolds, all the guys that worked with Burt that went to his school, the young kids. You know, the other football players were college graduates from his school in Jupiter, Florida. There was, you know, there's very rarely a time when you would get a random kid like myself who didn't go to his school. And so, so I walked away from that going, I had moved around a bit as a kid. And I said, that's what I want to do when I start growing up and being here in Hollywood, is I want to work with my friends, and I don't want to go anywhere. I want to stop moving, and I want to work with my closest friends and comrades and have that community, because my family was always very, very, very small in the way that we were in a community and we didn't have any relatives in the community. And we didn't, my mom had one sister and my dad had one brother. And so, we didn't end up having like, cousins and all these other things that would go on for days and go to barbecues and all that stuff. So all that to say, I love that idea of what Bert did. And I'm proud today to say that that's what I walked away with. And that's what I've been able to do through these movies and working with my friends for sometimes 20, 25, 25 years that I've been in Los Angeles.
I love that. What was the biggest change that happened within you right away from this show? And it was a major hit to be in a hit early on in your career.
Did you say what's the change in me?
Yes, the biggest change within you.
I guess you start to realize that you actually have a gift of what that dream that was put inside of you. I'm a big fan of dreams. I wrote a book about it.
I know. I'm going to give your book away tonight to someone.
Oh, good, excellent. Well, that's what I think. I think that I came away with an awareness of that the art form that I loved and had a passion for and never told anybody about growing up because I was a little bit embarrassed, maybe, so to speak, about, most people were just supposed to go to college and get a normal degree. I mean, almost all my friends, became normal work, guys that had regular jobs. And I realized that it was okay for me to be here and to embrace this creative side that I had always wondered about.
What I love about the career path that you've taken, first of all, Davis Gaines, incredible entertainer. He's once said to me that going into this business, you may go in with big dreams and ideas of how you want the career to go. But once you get into this career, it's like being in the middle of a pinball machine because you're bandied about and it's all the circumstances of the people you meet and the circumstances that happen in your life and career. Did you have a specific game plan as to how you wanted your career to unfold? Because you have a very unique career path that you've taken and that you've created, and a word that I want to use in a moment with you that I'm going to talk about. But do you feel that the career path that you set out for yourself has unfolded as you imagined it to unfold?
Not really. No, I would say it totally took a path of its own, but it's better in so many ways, and it's different in so many ways.
Okay, the word that I was going to ask, manifestation. Do you believe in manifestation? And do you believe that you have truly manifested the career that you want or desire?
A lot of people have different brain. I've noticed that over the years that some people have the brains that they need to plan things out. They need to set the goals so they're accomplishing those goals every, 1 month, 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. When Jim Carrey wrote on the check, I'll get paid $20 million, and and all of those things. I get it, but that wasn't me. For the most that I knew was I had a dream to produce. I also wanted to be a producer at some point in time in my life. But I thought that would be way down the road. I didn't know that when I was 26, 27, I would start producing. I thought it would be, when I was 40, like 40, so like when you're 19 years old, and that's what you're thinking about. But what I found to be true was that in the process, sometimes you don't always get what you're, that you can't always, what is it? That song, but you can't always get what you want, but if you try so hard, you get what you need, type of thing. Mm-hmm. I think that's more along the lines of what happened to me. Is in a lot of ways, I was frustrated as an actor because I started out with a lot of what would become movie stars. Hilary Swank played my girlfriend on the show, right? She went off to win 2 Academy Awards. Leo DiCaprio used to come by and hang out. He was just beginning his career. And I remember, the first time we were all sitting around a table when he had first gotten the Robert De Niro thing, and we were all so excited for him that he was going to be in This Boy's Life, I think was the name of it.
Mm-hmm.
Tobey Maguire was around. Like, there was a lot of like those folks that then went on. They were able to take whatever their beginnings were and then catapult them to super high levels. And in part, I always struggled with a little bit was because here's a kid that comes from Kansas, right? Gets on a show, gets discovered by Burt Reynolds. And I was perfectly set to launch the same way. So where did my launch go? What happened to my launching pad? Like, where did the jets go out or something? And so I think you sometimes ask those questions. I spent a lot of time in my 20s trying to figure out what in the world. And I mean, I suppose maybe I got fired off of Evening Shade. Maybe I had the wrong management company. Maybe there's a million other things that you can go, well, maybe that wasn't right. Or maybe, whatever. However, I do believe that sometimes you don't get what you think you need because it's not for you. And ultimately, it wouldn't have made you happy anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And or it was best that you went a different path. And I always had in my heart, growing up in the church, seeing these 16 millimeter things on Sunday night, they would roll a movie. And inevitably, we would never get to see the end of a Christian movie because either, the projector would eat the film.
I remember those days. Yes.
Sound wouldn't work. I don't think I ever finished a Christian movie. But I still had in my heart, for whatever reason, I had it early on that there should be a genre for these faith films. There is no genre. And why is that? When you have, 100 million plus people that, this is pre-pandemic, go to church once a week or once a month. And yet there's no movies being made for this thing. We have horror movies, thrillers, comedy, we have all these other genres, and yet we're missing a faith-based genre. Why is that? And so I set out in my as an actor doing these as little side projects, and then realized by my mid to late 20s, even though I certainly wasn't 40, old like 40 to go produce, I took the bull by the horns and I said, I'm going to do this because it should be done. And we started, me and another buddy, Kevin Downs, and Brad Heller and Wes Llewellyn. The 4 of us got together. We raised $87,000, and we made an End Times little movie, kind of like Revelation Road, but it was, this movie at the time was $87,000. And that movie went on and did very well and became I think, the ground floor for what would become a faith-based industry that we celebrate today, that every studio now has, not every studio, but almost every studio has a faith-based label. There's, Kevin Downs went on and he has got this massive deal at Lionsgate that he's making, huge movies. And then, I was very fortunate with to create Pure Flix that Sony bought last year. So all in all, I don't look back and go, "Wow, poor me. I didn't achieve anything or do anything." I just felt like my path was a different path, and I'm so grateful for the path that I was given.
Well, with all the hats that you wear in the industry, is there one particular hat that you enjoy wearing the most, or the one that fits you most comfortably?
I mean, at the core and at the heart, I think I'll always be an actor. I think there's, I don't necessarily run my life like an actor, because I have children, I have a company, I make, we're always in production. We're in production on kind of a Meet the Parents romantic comedy in South Carolina right now.
We're in South Carolina, by the way.
It's like right on the border of South and North Carolina.
Okay. I'm originally from South Carolina. That's why I asked.
I'm trying to remember the name, but I mean, literally, we're in production. I think we're on day 5. but I mean, like, so my life is a little different than just, than being an actor. I don't audition. I don't do that kind of things. But I am, like I was on Revelation Road, the series, actually this year earlier in South Africa for almost 3 months, starring in like a Mad Max, show. So it's interesting. I think that performing aspect I enjoy certainly, but I don't want to do that every day. I also really love being able to make sure that we create a lot of content for our genre, and for that I'm exceptionally grateful for as well. And we get to work and hire really, really great people.
And when did the writing start for you?
I mean, it started in my 20s, started doing that. But I'm not really a good writer. I mean,
Some
there's like,
people will disagree with you on that.
no, I'm a better rewriter, and then I'm even better just to give notes and let somebody else, write. And I mean, screenwriters, there's so many, it's a wonderful, again, it, there's so many art forms, right? And in the industry. And obviously, when you pursue something and you work really hard at it, that becomes your thing that you do well. Well, writing is okay, directing is okay. I've done my share of a lot of different things in the movie industry. But what I come back to is I think I'm a better producer and a better actor, primarily, than I am hey, let's sit in a room and let's write for 9 months.
Now, I want to talk about your memoir. When I discovered that you had written a memoir, I ordered two, one for myself and one to give away tonight. And uh, when do you sit down to write your memoir? Did you write it completely from memory, or did you keep journals over the years?
Yeah. Well, between heaven and Hollywood, let me see. Let me read. Where did I start this?
Page 25.
Yes. No. The funny thing about this, when God's Not Dead hit, Zondervan, that is an offshoot of what's the big powerhouse that book agency. They said, "Do you want to write a book?" And I had zero interest in writing a book. I was not trying to write a book, but somebody gave me a really good deal to write one. But I always have been a fan, and I've been passionate about dreams for a long time. It's called Between Heaven and Hollywood: Chasing Your God-Given Dream. And to me, this is my story. So it wasn't very hard in that way. It is my story of how in the world do you take a kid from Kansas, to me, the most unlikely guy on the planet, who's stuck in the middle of a wheat field on a tractor, who's then going to be producing, and hey, let's even start a genre of movies in Hollywood. So I tackled two sides of that book. It's my story about how in the world do you know if there's something in your heart, if there's a dream in your heart, that you're supposed to go for it and you're supposed to pursue that, or is it just a pipe dream that you should not pursue? Like maybe me going into the NBA, or me becoming a football player, maybe that wouldn't be necessarily the right dream for me to pursue. But so how do you know if that dream is something that you should pursue? And in the process of it, it kind of weaves my stories through this hopefully just a book that helps you go through how in the world do I accomplish goals? How in the world do I set them? How in the world do I know if I'm supposed to pursue them, and all of that?
Well, what did you learn about yourself from writing the book?
That it was really hard.
I admire your honesty.
Yeah, that it was very difficult, and I had help too. I mean, I'm a producer, for crying out loud. So, you find people that can help you in different ways, that have written more than you, and that can share some humor in the process and all of that. And so but I'm proud of it. I actually think, I'm not a big fan of books. I know that sounds terrible, but I don't read a ton because we read so many scripts and we read so much, stuff that's coming in all the time. I don't get to read as much as I used to. But I'm proud of this book, and I think it's actually it's a quick read. It's fun. It's comical at the same time. It's heartfelt, and hopefully it will encourage you and anybody out there for the dreams that you have.
Well, that's great. And I want to get back to your parents for a moment. Um, are you mentioned that your father is no longer physically here with us. Is your mom still here?
No,
Did they
no.
did they live to see your success?
They lived to see me do a bunch of movies, but it was before God's Not Dead that obviously my life changed after God's Not Dead in a lot of ways. When when that movie came out and revolutionized what I think Christian film it was
Mhm.
in society, and obviously financially it was really good for us as well. But no, they missed that part. But at the same token, my parents, what I love most about them is that we're always just supportive, and
God bless
they
them. That's
cared.
great.
Yeah, they cared more about, how were you as a person? What was your faith in God? And for that, I love them dearly, and I know they love me. And I wish for a while I was like, oh, I wish that they could have seen that. I wish they could have known my kids too. That. But for such a time as this, they're in a better place, and that brings me peace.
That's great. When I've talked about this on the show many times, but I came to New York when I was 18 years old, fresh off the farm. I grew up on a tobacco farm rather than a wheat farm, and I was the most naive kid to come out of the state of South Carolina. I learned as I went along. Uh, did you? I mean, were you? And of course, you came through the route of Chicago, so that probably helped tremendously before arriving in Hollywood and San Diego. But were you pretty grounded when you arrived in Hollywood?
Yes, I was, and I think that was definitely the very helpful in the process. That I'd been working since I was 9 years old, like picking rocks in a field. So it wasn't the work ethic wasn't hard for me. I was used to doing whatever it took to survive, and my parents had no means to help me, and I didn't expect them to. It was just it was traditionally you work hard and you make it go out of it, and it's scary. I'm not going to say, hey, I have no fear and no, that there weren't times that I was trying to figure out how in the world I'm going to pay for my rent, and some of these things in a big city. But I also feel like, for I got involved in a church early on, and I met really great people in that way as well. And I started to, I have so many wonderful, loyal friends that I've known for 20 some years, and a lot of them I work with, and I think those relationships that were established early on, and then not all of them last for 25 years, or I don't know about you, but a lot of them, the really good ones, they do. And I'm a big believer that you don't do anything by yourself.
Oh, no, absolutely you don't.
As a producer, also you try to find what people are really good at and put them in those roles. And when you do that, your production's better, and I think your life is better in that way too.
Well, as we start to wind down today, first of all, believe it or not, today is National Gratitude Day. That's why I chose your
Ah,
work today, and I'm a big believer in gratitude, and I'm sure that you practice gratitude yourself. I want to ask you what gratitude means to you, both in your personal life and in your professional life.
hmm. National Gratitude Day. Thanks for telling me that. Got to make sure I post about that today. So good. Um, what does it mean to me? I think it means in the process of Is it better? You know, it's better to give than to receive. I believe that. I believe that ultimately I'm called to love people as Christ loved me, as God loved me. And so I'm a big believer in being, once you can figure out being gracious and thankful in life. When you're thankful, you judge less. You know, you cast stones less. You just love people more. Is because you're okay with wherever, you know, God has put you for that, for such a time as this in your life, wherever you are, and you're grateful even when you're going through things and you don't understand it. The hardest things on the earth. I have kids, so you know, when my kids are sick, or my son broke his knee last year, like uh,
Wow.
like hard things, you know, and your kids in the hospital. I mean, you never know like what those things are. You have, you know, when your parents pass, before you knew it would go, or all kinds of things. Good friends die. There's so many things. The older you get, the more you realize that life is so fragile and beautiful if you make it that way, and if you are grateful. And so, yeah, I just try to live my life that way. I think it's the only way to live. In
That's great. And I say that on a daily basis. So the word, as I said, is gratitude, and we are going to give away a copy of your book tonight. All you need to do is respond with hashtag gratitude. And as I do with all of my shows, I do some wind down questions. These are just random questions that I pulled just to give, just for the fun of it. So just go for the ride. And the first questions are: what are some of your personal rules that you refuse to break?
Wow. Well, I mean, it starts, I think, with the 10 commandments. You try not to break any of the 10 commandments. So I guess you could just say those 10. You know? Let's
That's a
see.
good start.
Try not to lie, try not to steal, try not to kill somebody else, you know, try not to cheat on your spouse, try not to, all those things. Uh, I guess I'll start with that.
That works for me. Um, Whatever room I walk into, I change the atmosphere in a positive way. That's a statement.
Wow.
Do you have a favorite room in your house? And then beyond that, is there a favorite place that you like, that you and your family like to go to?
Well, you know what? I'm grateful to live in my house. I have a lot of rooms, and I'm grateful for each one of them in different ways. So I don't know. I don't necessarily have my favorite room. The living room, I think, where my big TV is. I enjoy that one. And then I have a ping pong table in there, an air hockey thing. You know, it's so random. You know, it's not the family room of choice probably for a lot, but I like it. Uh, what was the question again?
You just answered it. Uh, it says, whatever room I walk into, I change the atmosphere in a positive way. Nice statement. I like that. So, Howard Tucker, who's watching tonight, and I always acknowledge him when he's here, because he gave me a gratitude calendar, and which I love. It's on my desk, and I pull these random thoughts from the calendar, and I'm going to start with this. It says, "Self-love is making myself as comfortable as possible while I'm working." So, while you're working, how do you make yourself comfortable?
Well, I think for the most part, it's just having a good time on set. You know, I'm just going to go when we produce movies here, or when I'm in a movie. Obviously, we work in our office and everywhere else too. But I think the biggest thing is a sense of humor. I think is if you can have a sense of humor and try to make people feel comfortable, as opposed to running around with a whip all day long. Um, I think that it starts from the top down, and if the top is relaxed and having a good time, then everybody feels like a sense of relief. Now, obviously, when hour 12 comes and you're not done with the shot or something that you're supposed to be doing and finishing, and there's stress on it, it's still trying to bring the levity and joy to each moment of the day in different ways.
Okay. And also from the calendar, It says list. I'm going to ask you, list 3 things that you appreciate about yourself.
Wow. I feel like I'm in a therapy session, quite frankly.
You are.
What do I appreciate about myself? Well, I'm good enough, I'm strong enough, and doggone it, people like me.
Thank
I
you.
think that might have been a line from a movie, but I'm sticking to it.
I love it. It works for me. Um, and I'm going to give a quote from the calendar. One of my favorites. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. That's Dr. Seuss. What have you done recently to make life a whole lot better for everyone else? Well, your films, obviously, but beyond your films.
What have I done recently? Well, I haven't been divorced for very long, so I'm in this like process of dating again. And so, sometimes it's is as simple as like setting up a buddy of mine on a date. And so we go on a double date together. And it sounds weird, but it's kind of fun. And, and maybe it'll make his night better too.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, I've never thought about that, but that way you get 2 perspectives on your date.
You do. That's good.
That's
You gotta
wonderful.
remember your date's name, though. That's a big thing.
That's great. Is there something that you do that makes you feel extra protected in the world?
Something that I do that feels extra protective in the world. Well, I mean, you can go from hey, go to church, and I think that in the process of getting closer to God and to the Creator of the universe, that you will feel more protected because that's what God loves you, and God loves God. Well, He has His hand around you, and you pray for His protection over you and your family and and everyone around you. I think there's that, and then there's on the flip side of it. Hey, just go to the gym, and I think that'll be a good way to protect yourself as well, because you work your heart out, and and hopefully you're doing something good for you.
Absolutely. Well, you pretty much have answered this, but I mean, I want to put an age on this. How young were you when the bug actually bit you?
I think it was. I'd like to probably say like eighth grade,
Okay.
like when I was like 13.
And this is a good one. Find a funny joke that you've never heard before and tell it to someone else. But do you have a favorite joke?
I'm so bad with jokes. I can't. You think that like I could remember jokes and whatnot, but I'm like, I mean, you could always just say the Mennonite joke or like jokes that I've said a million times, but those aren't really like, hey, knock knock, who's there joke. I don't really have a joke.
Okay.
Man walks into a bar, there's a priest I don't know. No.
So you're not going to tell a joke. You're not going to tell a joke. Good. And this will be my last question for you, I promise. One of the things that you talked about earlier that I really absolutely love, and that you got from Burt Reynolds, and God bless you, Burt, and that's establishing a family on the set with the people that you work with and throughout your career. So I'd like you to talk a little bit more about loyalty in this business, the loyalty of the people that, and even here, so many people, I see the names that show up for me every night, and it means so much to me. The loyalty of those people that are there for you and that have been there for you, your fans, the people that you work with, loyalty in this business and what it means to you.
Yeah, there's so many different ways of what is that loyalty, from your friends, your family, coworkers in different ways. For me, I always come back to, I think it's maybe the most I do movies a lot of times with friends of mine that have been that I know a lot of obviously people in the entertainment industry because I'm in the entertainment industry. So a lot of those are my really good friends. And whether or not it's one of my best friends, who created Revelation Road with me, to the guy who then I think he deserves the mantle of creating it. He wrote it, directed it, he edits it, he does all kinds of things on it, and he's really taking it forward. Gabe has been, amazing that way. Wait. What was the question? I want to make sure that I hit the point really.
No, about loyalty and what it means to you in this
what
business.
it means to me. Yeah, I think so. So in the process of, in Hollywood, because let's just talk about Hollywood since this is what we're, talking about, is there so much disloyalty. Hollywood is notorious for, hey, I'm your best friend today. If you could do something for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I am a big, I don't like that at all, because I guess maybe I'm a traditionalist who's, from Kansas, where people were really kind and supportive and loyal and, just more traditional in the way that when I love somebody for whatever reason that is, or get close to that person, I'll do anything for that person, to help them achieve their dreams in the process of it. And I've been able to do that with so many people over the years. And vice versa. Some people have done that for me in different ways. And I just think that's what, loyalty is really. I mean, it's like, I think it's something like, there's like a verse in the Bible, something about you would lay down your life for your friend. Would you really lay down your life for a friend? And I don't want to pretend like, I lay down my life for so many people, but some of them I would. And I think that's true loyalty. And I know they would do the same for me. I hope they would, but who knows whether or not they would or not. But I think that's loyalty. And that loyalty grows over time. Like, you don't just automatically get loyalty when you meet somebody and like, oh, this is my new best friend. I met him, 12 minutes ago, and we're going to be best buds, and expect a day later that person is going to be loyal to you or in any way. Like, it's over time, and it's proven that loyalty is proven over time in different ways, through ups and downs and hardships. And there's not a lot of people. I don't want to say there's a million people in my life that I consider in that group, that would be there when you're, in the hospital, dying. How many of your true friends would come out for that? I don't know. But I hope that I'm that way for others, though. And I hope that I show up for others. And I think that is what loyalty is.
Well, somehow I think they would for you, and vice versa. Hang up for a moment. We're going to give away your book. Thank you all for being here tonight. And we'll see who our winner is tonight. And don't go anywhere for a moment. Doug McAllister. Doug is my new intern. So see what happens, Doug. You show up and you win.
I love that.
Doug, give me a call in an hour and I'll get you the book. David, don't go anywhere for a moment. I'm going to say my closing remarks, and then I'm going to turn it over to you, and you've got the final word tonight. So I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. And as I said earlier, it is National Gratitude Day. So there are a few people that I want to say that I'm grateful for tonight. Roger Neal, thank you for making this happen. David, thank you. Last night, we could have gone through, but I thought, you were having other issues last night, and I wanted to give you the night off. And thank you for coming back and doing this tonight. So I'm grateful that you said yes again, and here you are. So thank you. I'm grateful for the work that you do, and I can't wait to sit down and really delve into your book and to share your book with Doug. I'm grateful for everybody who shows up night after night after night. I'm grateful for our sponsors, Deborah Stone, Aaron Caleb, and Kurt Peterson. So thank you all for sponsoring tonight's show. Everybody, I end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Go to your Facebook friends list and reach out to the 9th name that pops up, and then reach out with a phone call. Not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, a phone call. and let that person know what they mean to you. You never know. Burt Ward was on here a few weeks ago, and Burt Ward said, if you live every day as if it was your last day, one day you're going to be right. And it's true. So, and it's very important that we treat everybody with respect and with dignity. And I think it's important that we take the time to make that phone call. So, Doug, I'm going to be waiting for your phone call later tonight. And I hope that you all will do that. As a dear friend of mine, Sean Monagher, always says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. And I always say, if you're going to go out in a boat, make sure you bring a skipper along. So, David, I'm going to leave the screen and I'm going to give you the final word. Anything you want to say about anything that we talked about tonight that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any final message you want to leave everyone with tonight. Don't worry about how to end the show. As soon as you say goodbye, the credits will roll. Thank you for being here. And anytime you want to come on the show, you've got a platform. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's all yours.
Well, I just I can't even believe that I'm ending your show, Richard, but I'm honored, and I want to celebrate and say thank you so much to you for having me on the show. I'm a big believer in giving back, and I hear you on the Facebook challenge that you just threw out there, and I would just say to all of you guys, wherever you are, know that that you matter, and that there is a special calling and a purpose for your existence. And so no matter what you're going through, no matter what you've been through, your life is not over by any means. And I believe that God has a special calling on your life, and that he's going to use you in a powerful way if you let him. And with that, I say, God bless you. And thank you for listening to me and to Richard, even though it's his show. But God bless you. And hey, don't forget to watch Pure Flix and see my new movie. Nothing's Impossible. It hits next week. So God bless you guys.